All right. Good evening, class of 2025 students and families. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our pre-registration webinar. And if these were normal times, we'd be fighting the snow and the cold weather, but here we're able to come at you virtually and share some critical information with you that is pertinent to the course selection process for the 2021-2022 school year. My name is Dr. Jen Tyrell, and I am the proud principal of Carl Sandburg High School, and I'm here with two very important members of our administrative team that will help you with all things transition and course registration. Mr. Derek Smith, Associate Principal for Curriculum and Instruction and a Sandburg graduate, and Mrs. Michelle Augustiniak, Director of Guidance. Mrs. Augustiniak and Mr. Smith are going to guide you through tonight's webinar. We have a slide deck to share with you. Tonight is a very procedural night. We're going to share with you a lot of pertinent information relevant to the course selection process. All of you should be commended for making it this far in the transition process. So as you can see here on our screen, our transition arrow, which is something that Sandburg students and families are very familiar with. We've had the opportunity to visit with all of you through our open house experience. We've also had a chance to send you email communication, as well as mail home some course recommendations as well. Tonight, we are going to frame things out for you so that you feel well prepared to attend a course selection process with our own Sandburg guidance department. So we are here, we are ready, and after tonight, that next step will be our course selection process. As I shared, Mrs. Augustiniak and Mr. Smith are going to take you through a majority of our webinar. We do not have the chat enabled. I will try my best to man the Q&A, but if any questions go unanswered tonight, certainly you can contact Mrs. Augustiniak, Mr. Smith, myself, any of the division chairs whose contact information we will share with you tonight, or Mrs. Augustiniak's secretary, Mrs. McFarland, and her contact information is on a lot of the communication that you've received thus far. So we'll do our best to get to any questions that exist. We're going to share a lot of information with you tonight, but even if we don't get to your questions, we are all here to help you through this process and can answer your questions as they surface over the coming weeks and as you complete your transition to Sandburg Eagles. So welcome everybody, and I hope you enjoy tonight's webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Tyrell. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, class of 2025ers. Wish we were all hanging tonight in the Eagle Gym, but I'll take hanging with you guys online anytime. So, usually tonight when we're all together, the major goal of the evening is so that all of our incoming families and students are as prepared as possible for their registration process, which is usually the Saturday after this Monday. So our schedule is a little different than that this year. Some of the processes are a little different than that this year, but I think the goal is the same in that we want everyone to be as prepared for the next steps in the class of 2025 registration process. So some of our goals kind of relate to, first, how do I prepare for a course selection? I'll guide you through how to complete the Skyward verification process, and then how to schedule a virtual course selection appointment once you are registered in Skyward. Then kind of guiding you through, giving you some insight into that course selection process overall. So how do I know which courses to select? Reviewing individual course recommendations, which you should have some eyes on already. And then how do you complete the course selection worksheet? Michelle will kind of guide you through some of the components of what will happen during the course selection appointment, and then what are the next steps that happen sort of after the course selection process. So first step is to prepare for course selection, and the first thing to get completed with that process is to complete the Skyward verification process. So close to 400 families, I think, have completed this already. So awesome job to everyone out there that's already completed this first step. So to do this, if you've yet to do it, you want to log on to Skyward Family Access. So that process will be, if you go to the Sandburg website, you'll see a link on there that says Skyward. You should have received through email, and then also a hard copy mailing with some of your login and password information for Skyward Family Access. Once you use those login credentials to complete the verification process. So log into Skyward with that information, answer some of those questions that are posed to you there, and then once you've answered those questions, it will ask you to upload a digital copy of the birth certificate, and that'll kind of get you through that important first step. So our communications thus far have included instructions, the instructions for that first step through email. And we also have instructions in the mailing that went home. If you access tonight's webinar from that Google document that had the webinar link in it, there's also the links to the PDFs of those instructions as well. So if you can't find those, let us know. We can shoot you an email or point you in the right direction for how you get those instructions for at least that first step. Once you are all set in Skyward, this is the new portion of course selection in 2021, is scheduling a course selection appointment. Okay, so please note that the scheduling process for course selection will close on Wednesday, February 3rd at 12 p.m. So I think about 400 families have scheduled course selection appointments already, but if you have yet to do so, please jump in there as soon as you can to get that time, get that appointment, so you have an opportunity to speak with one of our guidance counselors regarding, your courses for next year. You can answer any questions that you might have, and just make sure that families and students are feeling as good as they can going into the next school year about the courses that they have selected. All right. So once you've gone through that first Skyward verification process and you log into Skyward, you'll see a tab or a link on the left-hand side there that says conferences. If you click that tab, it'll bring you into the space where you can actually schedule a time. Okay. So all of those meetings will be virtual. Michelle will be giving you a little bit more information on what will happen in those meetings in a little bit. Virtual meetings, about 10 minutes, so they're pretty snappy. So if you're feeling good about some of your course selections and kind of already have a good idea, it should be just a good opportunity for you to connect with a guidance counselor, ask any questions you have about courses or just anything related to Sandberg. So 10 minutes should be a good amount of time for you to kind of get that initial round of information from our guidance office. We do have meeting time slots scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week from 4 to 8 p.m. It's a little competitive out there right now for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so not a ton of slots left on those days. Thursday and Saturday do have availability though. So later this week and maybe into next week, if you schedule on Thursday or Saturday, you will get a Zoom link. Will be sent to each family prior to the scheduled meeting. So we'll be sending all the families, everyone, an email with a new round of course recommendations, and then you'll also be getting a Zoom link within that email as well. You can access that Zoom link right at the scheduled time. So if you have a 4:10 appointment, click the link at 4:10. Looks like everyone came in right on time this evening. So you can click that link and access your appointment. It'll bring you into Zoom, where one of our guidance staff will be waiting to kind of guide you through that course selection process. As far as the planning, so I kind of have outlined the steps thus far to get everything you need to do set for course selection. Before you get into that appointment, kind of review your course recommendations. So we emailed home that first round of recommendations. We mailed home that first round of recommendations. I know we've been getting a lot of questions. We've been trying to provide as much information as we can if families have a question about some of those first course recommendations. So if you haven't got them, please let us know. We could maybe try to get you some information. Those recommendations were a little bit different this year. Usually we, add the PSAT 8 as part of our recipe for course recommendations. So recommendations this year were a little bit different. Information from 8th grade teachers, partner schools, junior highs, kind of informed what our Sandberg DC recommendations were. For special services families, you probably got a letter that kind of talked about what the process is for making those course selections. Those course selections, those course recommendations are informed entirely by the IEP process, or that transition process. If you do have a question, so if you have a question about what is in freshman English, or what am I going to be reading in honors English? If you have any questions about that, you can contact our division chairs. If there's a course where you're thinking that you might want to take a course different than what's listed, normally on this night, we have our division chairs situated in the gold gym. We got the tables ready, and we kind of spend a good hour or so asking questions from taking questions from families individually in each academic department, giving them some information on what if I want to take a different course than what's listed, how do I do that, what are the process for that? So we're not doing that with Zoom or anything tonight, but I will my next slide, I'll share some of the contact information for our division chairs. Please reach out to us, let us know any questions you have, and we'll make sure you get the information that you need. So our communications for course recs should have had contact information for our division chairs here. We've listed it also in this slide. Right after the presentation tonight, I'll be adding a link to tonight's presentation to that pre-registration night link Google document, so you'll be able to access the contact information from DCs here as well.
Hi, everyone. At this point, we've talked about you've got your course recommendations. And so now what do you do with those between now and the time where you sit with a counselor during your course selection meeting? So I'm going to refer to a couple of links and I'm going to refer to a couple of documents. I want to first tell you that all of these can be found on the 2025 transition page. So as I'm referencing things like the course catalog, the course planning worksheet, they're all there for you to go access, look at as you're working with your family to prepare for your course selection meeting. What you're going to see on your right here is an example of the course selection worksheet. This is something that we give as a resource to help guide our families through the process of what exactly am I going to take next year. The first thing that you're going to find is Mr. Smith just referenced the recommendations. You're going to move those recommendations from your placement letter onto this worksheet. And you're going to find that that's likely going to fill up many of the slots in your course planning worksheet. But what you're also going to find is you're going to find spaces that you might have for an elective. So you're going to look at a world language, something from family consumer science, or you're going to look at a business course, really kind of taking the opportunity to discuss as a family what's right for your student and what you might want to take. This is a process we'll do each year. You'll work with a similar worksheet each year as you're kind of narrowing down those choices to sit with your counselor for the selection meeting. We encourage you to look at the course catalog in our transition page, and I'm going to talk about those in the next slide just a bit. If you go to the class of 2025 transition page, like I had shared, this is kind of an example of what's on the front of the page. And as you scroll down, you'll see course selection resources. This is where you're going to find that worksheet and also the course codes that align to each of our courses. This is also where you're going to find our course catalog. And this is a resource that I really want and encourage families to follow the link and take some time to look through. You're going to find information in here about each of our courses in each department. It's going to give you a little description of each of the courses. It's going to tell you what grade level you can take them at. What are the prerequisites? Really kind of a guide to help you determine, is this course available for me now? Or is this a course that I really might want to take in the future? So I need to make sure I take any prerequisite courses available. Some unique things that are also available in the catalog, it talks a lot about graduation requirements. The summer school information is available there. So really a great resource for you kind of to explore as a family when you're kind of ready to sit down and dive into what courses do I really want to take over the course of the next 4 years. The next thing that I'd really like to draw your attention to is the 21-22 registration elective offerings page. This is something that we put together this year for our current Sandberg students and for our incoming students. And what it allowed our areas to do is to create some videos to really highlight what they do in their classroom. So you can kind of see firsthand from some of the teachers and some hands-on experience of what they are doing in there. Again, these are all resources. We're not going to be collecting the worksheet as you're meeting with your counselors, but it's something that it's really important that you take the time to walk through. It's also going to give you the opportunity to really determine what questions do I have when I go to sit with the counselor that we can really ask. As Mr. Smith shared, the meetings are only 10 minutes long, so they're going to be snappy. So we want to make sure that you have these resources in front of you, the worksheet that you've used your placements, you've looked through the course catalog, and can really ask those specific questions that you might need during that 10-minute time slot. This is an example of a filled out course selection worksheet, just kind of a visual that as you're sitting and you're going to see that the English, math, and recommendations were kind of moved over from the student's placement letter and put in. This student looked at social studies in our elective and they said, you know what, I really want to take global issues. They got into that course catalog and they said, this is really a course that will benefit me as a freshman. They looked at electives. They decided to take Spanish 1 as a world language. That was a space in their schedule that they had some room. And so as a family, they made that decision to select those as courses. Something you're going to know is all students will automatically take freshman physical education. So you can just fill that into your course worksheet, as well as a lunch and study hall. There are some different things that happen with some of the choirs, which would be unique to a counselor conversation. But most students will have a half lunch, half study hall. So now you've gotten to Skyward, done your verification, you've taken your placement recommendations, you've filled out your worksheet, and now it's time for you to have that 10-minute meeting with the counselor. Something that I think is really important to know is you will meet with one of our counselors. You will not necessarily be meeting with the counselor that you'll work with over the course of the next 4 years. At this point, we don't have those assigned. And I know that we sometimes have families ask, like, is this who my student's going to work with? At this point, no, not necessarily. It may be just based on chance. But going into the meeting, it could be any one of our counselors to help guide you through that process. Mr. Smith had shared that there would be a Zoom link sent to each family prior to the scheduled meeting that you'll follow, and the counselor will be on the other side of that. You're going to bring that completed worksheet to the meeting. And again, nobody's collecting it, but just as a guide to kind of transition through that conversation. Counselors also have access in the system to what you were recommended for, and are able to answer any of those specific questions that you might have. So it's that collaborative conversation when everyone kind of comes prepared to the meeting, and you're really able to talk about the things that you might have specific questions about. We've talked about it a bit, but I really want to encourage you to be prepared on time and prepared for the meeting. It's going to be really important that we maximize that 10 minutes. That 10 minutes will go fast. And we're always here to ask or answer questions after the meeting. If you had specific things, you could always reach out to Mrs. McFarland, my secretary, and she'd be happy to get you connected to whoever might be able to answer your question. But really utilizing that time so you guys can walk out of there feeling like you have a good understanding of what your student's going to be taking to kind of kick off next school year. The last piece of information that we have for you today seems a little bit different. It's kind of in addition to the course selection information. And we really wanted to take the opportunity to share this tonight because there are deadlines that are going to be coming more quickly. So we wanted to make sure that it's on our family's radar. Absolutely, the Skyward verification, getting the course selection meeting scheduled and preparing for the meeting are really priorities at this time. But this is something that's going to come up really quickly after. So we wanted to share. Sort of like what I said with the class of 2025 transition page, all of this information can be found on the Sandberg webpage under our nurse's office link. So I think it's really important that you know that and are able to go access that after this to find some of the documents and links you might be looking for. There are really two major things that come out of our health service office that we need. And the first one is going to be an emergency information form. And this is simply a form that our families fill out to give us some information for your student that we keep on file. This is something that you can go to the nurse's page. You can fill this out on your own. And you're going to submit that by February 15th. This is something that we need more in advance because we get it into our systems to make sure that we have the most accurate information in our systems. The next piece is something that the health exam and dental exam, these are required documents for all of our class of 2025 students. So this is something every family is going to need to submit, but you have a little bit more time because you may be making appointments with your physicians and things like that over the course of the spring. Your deadline here is going to be May 1st. We're asking that as many families as possible submit them electronically. If you go to the nurse's office webpage, you'll be able to find those links and submit them there. Again, February 15th for the emergency information form and May 1st for the health exam and the dental exam. The only other thing to note about the health exam is for those of you who have students who might be participating in athletics, oftentimes that health exam will also qualify for the physical that's required for athletics if it runs the course of the entire competitive season. So you don't necessarily need to go get two different physicals. They count as the same one as long as they're good for the entire length of the season.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Augustiniak and Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, before I summarize today's meeting, I know that we shared a lot of information. I just want to talk through real quick with families what they have to do now and what they have to do later, kind of next steps here. But is there anything you'd like to revisit that was shared tonight in our webinar?
Just one note, I think I caught up on the Q&A questions. Oh, one just came in just as I said it. I'll get to that one as soon as I can. I know the link on the course selection sheet might need to be updated in Google. So I know some of you guys are requesting access. We'll get that link updated right away. Check a little bit later. You should have access to that so you can kind of review that as part of the process.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. And as you can see, a great deal of thought has went into this course selection process for our incoming class of 2025. Feel really excited about this opportunity. And these are different times, so we have to revamp processes, but a great deal of time has went into making this process as user-friendly as possible for our students and families. As Mr. Smith highlighted, if you have not verified in Skyward and signed up for a course selection appointment, those are your top two on the to-do list. So Skyward verification, if you can get that birth certificate uploaded, that's great as well. And then number two, sign up for that course selection process. And we're asking that you get in there and do it as soon as possible. We want you to have that meeting time so that we can get ourselves organized and send you that Zoom link in advance of your course selection meeting. Also, after you are verified in Skyward and signed up for your course selection meeting, you are going to go through your list of recommendations. And I want to emphasize, if you have any questions on your recommendations, or you feel like you would like to discuss the placement, so if you would like to discuss the level or the course that your student has been recommended for by our Sandburg administrative team, please reach out to the appropriate content area DC prior to your course selection appointment. That is very important. And you can reach out via call or email to them. They will get back to you as soon as possible. And if they need to set up a time to chat with you in advance, if the communication is via email, they will certainly do that. So if there's any questions regarding those recommendations, please contact the appropriate division chair in advance of your course selection appointment. Next stop then would be your course selection appointment. In preparation for that time, you are going to go through the worksheet, look at your recommendations, preview some of those elective videos, look at the course selection guide, just familiarize yourself with all we have to offer at Sandburg. I think we have like 270 courses here at Sandburg, and certainly class of 2025 students aren't necessarily eligible for every one of those 275 courses, but it's a good idea to start to familiarize yourself with our offerings so that you can set the table to be able to take all of the courses that you would like to take during your Sandburg experience. So verify in Skyward, sign up for that appointment, look at those recommendations, discuss them as a family, reach out to appropriate division chairs if you have any questions. Certainly Mrs. Cost, our Director of Special Education, will be working very closely, as will our lead teachers and other case managers, with our families of students that are coming in with an IEP. So those appointments will also occur, and those will be additional communications out of our Director of Special Education's office. And then, as Mrs. Augustiniak shared, the next step kind of after that, so you have your primary to-do list, and then your secondary to-do list is to make sure that you start getting in your health paperwork so that you're all ready to go for the beginning of the 2021-2022 school year. And many of our students, many of you, class of 2025 students, we hope become part of the Sandburg culture well before. And some of you have already started. Your siblings, you have come to your siblings' games or concerts or plays, and that's awesome. And we hope that many of you will begin your Sandburg experience before you are actually here in the fall by attending camps and other activities, band camp or athletic camps over the summer as well. So more information about that type of stuff will be coming later this spring. So right now, our emphasis is all on course selection, and we are so happy that you were able to join us tonight. You can see here we have our Twitter handle, our Instagram handle. You can follow us on Facebook as well. There's a lot of ways to stay connected, and that class of 2025 website really is a primary hub of information for students and families as they continue their transition experience. We have student stories, video testimonials from our staff, and then information about the course selection process as well. So I appreciate you joining us tonight. Certainly we, as Mr. Smith shared, we wish we were in the Eagle Gym all together, but this is a good way for us to get all of you important information, and we are all here to answer any questions that you might have as you are preparing for that course selection appointment. So certainly if the questions are about placement recommendations, you can contact our division chairs. Overall process, certainly can contact our guidance office, and Mr. Smith and I are available as well. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck as you pursue the course selection process, and stay safe and healthy. And we can't wait to have you here at Sandburg continuing your transition experience and then as future Eagles. So thank you, class of 2025 students and families. Have a great night and stay safe.